Hello, I'm Mick O'Regan, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to Joy Conolly. Finding opportunity in adversity isn't always easy, but as Joy Conolly knows, it can be incredibly rewarding. As a mother, stepmother, and now grandmother, Joy Conolly radiates love and compassion. But she also understands hardship and the need to provide opportunities for the most vulnerable. Also, she can't resist a challenge. So whether it's the music that feeds her soul, the friends that enliven her life, or the chance to provide a voice for the underprivileged, joy is always where effort meets achievement. And for us, that's why we think she's a Feros hero.
I enjoy being involved in life. I enjoy being 80 because I don't feel 80, to be honest. I feel 80 years young rather than 80 years old. And I really enjoy being involved with music. And I've recently taken up piano lessons too, because eventually I won't be able to blow the clarinet and I don't want to be left without an instrument to play. So I'm now doing piano lessons as well. Music feeds my soul. I cannot imagine life without music. I think as I've got older, things that give me great pleasure have changed because I appreciate life a lot more. I think you tend to take it for granted when you're younger. And also, when I was younger, I was pretty busy bringing up a lot of children, and that tends to take up a lot of time. But it was when I was left with only one child to bring up that I went to university. So it's been a continual momentum, really. But anyone that knew me when I was younger would probably be pretty amazed. Like, I'm pretty amazed at what's happened too. I'm amazed at what life has been able to deliver. But looking back, I can see that my mother had a lot of adversity. She came through the Depression, through the war, had a Danish husband, which wasn't always easy, even though he was a great man, don't get me wrong. But she never ever gave up. She was a very determined little lady and died at 93. And that sounds pretty good to me. The adversity that has happened in having two husbands die, which each time it was my closest friend I'd lost, which was a terrible blow. It taught me that I had to get out and greet the world. The world was not going to come and greet me. It was something that I found very hard to do because I'm a natural introvert. So going out and meeting other people and forcing myself to join in was almost a physical pain. But I've had such rich rewards from it, and especially meeting music people, music friends have been wonderful. The alternative is to grow old and miserable. And people often comment on how well I have handled the fact that I can't drive anymore. Certainly I didn't like being told that I couldn't drive anymore, but it's been actually a bit of a relief. And I find that staying at home and being miserable is not an alternative. So when the opportunity came for me to learn music, it was fantastic. And I can remember the first day I went for the very first lesson with the clarinet, and my daughter was away, so I was looking after her 6-year-old daughter. So I turned up for my lesson with a 6-year-old grandchild, and the music teacher said, "How well do you read music?" And I said, I can't read music. I thought I was going to be thrown out before I'd even started. But he gave Jess a lolly and took a deep breath, and we started off with middle C, and it's all gone from there. So it's a matter of having experiences that you just have to gulp and come up and get over them and then keep going. My decision to do mature age learning, do a university course, came after my husband had heard me giving a paper at a psychological conference where one of the speakers who'd been asked to speak was ill. So they knew Joy Conolly lived in Toowoomba and the conference was in Toowoomba, so someone was told, get in touch with Joy Conolly. So with 3 days' notice, can you prepare a paper on step families? So I did, and it was a great success, and people were sort of very anxious to have copies of the paper. But the woman that was running the whole session came down and said to me, "What's your discipline?" And I didn't know what she meant. And she said, "What degrees do you have?" And I said, "Oh, well, I don't have a degree, but I've written a book about step families." So she got up and introduced me. This is Joy Conolly, a Toowoomba stepmother who says she's written a book. And with that introduction, and then I launched forward, and then the paper was so well received, and I said, there's 20 copies here if anyone would like it, and they were fighting each other for copies of that paper. Now Peter was there, and he heard that, and I had given papers at other places too because of that first book, and he said, "You are crazy if you don't come and do some academic course." And when I was walking into the university at the beginning of that final year, I was overwhelmed with sadness, thinking, this is nearly over. Yeah, oh, I could cry even thinking about it now, because I had never, ever, ever thought that an education was to be for me. I'd grown up in a family where it's a waste of money to educate girls. So it was thrilling, really thrilling, to feel as though I was in a lecture theatre and I had a right to be there. That no one was going to tell me I was in the wrong place or I didn't deserve to be there. And exactly the same thing happened when I took up music. I had a right to be there. No one was going to say, "No, you can't do this." If you're prepared to have a go, you can do it. The journey is what is so important, and you don't know what the destination is. Reframing things so that people can see it from a different aspect. Reframing is a very, very important part of my work. And people will say, "Oh gosh, I hadn't even thought of it from that angle." And it's a bit like, when you look in a window, you see one side of the room, but you can't see that side, so you've got to look at it from that side. So it's a real art in being able to turn it around and have a look at from a different angle. I'm approaching my 80s with great enthusiasm, and largely because I've been asked to help with the Feros care people to set up groups online, virtual groups, which I don't understand too much about technical stuff. In fact, I hardly know how a telephone works, but I accept that they do work. And I have been running a group here every Friday morning for the last 8 years, and people come. They're meant to come at 9 o'clock, they start arriving at 8:30, they're meant to go at 11, usually it's 11:30 before they've gone. They love it, it's the highlight of their week, it's the highlight of my week. I really enjoy it. It is great, and it was that group that got me involved with Feros care, because one of the women in my group has a grandson married, or has a granddaughter who's married to the grandson who is the webmaster of Feros care. And he heard her talking about the group and he said, "What's this group? I'd like to know more about it." And it's all gone from there. The group is really satisfying because we have such a level of trust with each other. There's all sorts of things that come out in that group now that would never come out without that level of trust, because people know that what happens in that room doesn't go out of the room. And in order to do the online ones, we've got to think about that. There's a lot of work to be done, but I'm thrilled to be asked to help set it up. Really thrilled. And with music, if anyone had said you're going to finish up playing with the Gold Coast Wind Orchestra, I would have said, "Oh, don't be silly." Of course I'm not, but I do, and I still do. And I am the oldest member in the group, I have to say. But the very thrilling part of that group is there are lots of ages, and the youngest one is probably a young lad of about 12 who's really sweet. Older people shouldn't write themselves off. They should pick up a challenge and go for it, and at least try it. And if it doesn't work, then that's fine, but it might work. And if that doesn't work, then try something else, like a smorgasbord. There's plenty of things that older people can do, if they really want to. Or you can sit at home and be miserable. To me, there's not a choice.